Hello everyone, Eureka Forsyth here. In this video, I'll be doing the A to Z Hot or Not Bookish Tag. I was inspired by watching Kiran from the channel Kiran Reader and Charles from channel CSOP. I'll link their channels below in the description if you're interested in checking out their stuff. Without further ado, let's begin. Hot! I used to be against audiobooks, but I've changed my mind since listening to my first audiobook this year, which was Ellie Griffith's Stranger Diaries, which was read by 3 different narrators. It gives me a similar experience to how I listen to podcasts, and I love listening to podcasts. If my eyes are tired, I can just pop in my earbuds, lay in bed, close my eyes, and listen to the narrators read the story to me. It can, though, be a double-edged sword as opposed to reading a book with your eyes, where you can imagine characters' voices however you like in your head. But with an audiobook, there is already someone who is already picked to narrate the story for you. And most of the time, you will be experiencing an audiobook through only one narrator. If there isn't a physical or digital copy to the book you can switch to, you're kind of in a pinch if you don't find the narrator's voice appealing or just don't vibe with it in general. B for Bildungsroman. Moving on, no, not hot, but also it depends. Bildungsroman is essentially a book that follows a character from childhood to adulthood, and is also usually described as a coming-of-age kind of story. This is a bit tricky to answer because I have not found a book I like currently within this genre, but I'm still open to trying it out every now and again, in case I ever stumble upon one that suits my tastes. C for children's books. Hot, of course. What better time to start your reading journey than when you're a kid? Also, almost all children's books have illustrations too, so you can also have a child build their appreciation and inspiration for art at a young age as well, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Maybe they might even become an artist of some sort in the future. Who knows? D for digital. I've started reading lots of ebooks this year, so this would be hot too. I've been taking advantage of using my library's catalog in Libby and ebooks/audiobooks on Project Palace as well. This has been a godsend for my wallet since I've decided to only purchase physical copies of books I've really enjoyed and rated highly. E for experimental. Yes, hot. I really enjoy experimental books because I think it's fun to see an author try to write something in a new or different way from their usual writing style. There's usually a playfulness and cheekiness to it that's fun and refreshing. I find it most fun when it's done in horror, sci-fi, alternate history, speculative, or something that has a surreal topic as its focus in the story. F for fantasy. This genre is not a main focus on my channel, but I do enjoy a good fantasy book here and there. I've learned recently that I prefer mid to high fantasy books. If you have magical or fantastical elements in your story, I want the author to go gung-ho with it. Just all in on that aspect for the book. I thought I would like light fantasy, but I've realized I don't really enjoy it as much. Something always feels like it's missing, or it feels too set in the real world, so it doesn't feel fantasy enough for me. From this experience, I think I'll focus my time on the preference I stated above whenever I decide my next fantasy read. G for graphic novel. I think it wouldn't be wrong to say we can include manga here as well. I've always enjoyed graphic novels and manga since I was a kid, so this is a hot for me. It's not immediately on my priority list, but I would like to read more of these kinds of books this year as well. A couple manga that I can think of off the top of my head from that list are Dungeon Meshi and Witch Hat Atelier. H for horror. Hot, hot, hot. One of the main genres I presently want to talk about for books and will continue onwards towards the future as well. The horror genre is so varied and there are so many subgenres tied to it, and it's also a great genre to blend with others. It's definitely not a genre that is accessible to others in regards to the content involved in most works, but if you do decide to dip your toes into it, I feel like it's easy to find a subgenre within it that will align with what you like. I for inspirational. Not hot. I don't go out of my way to read inspirational books usually, so I will put this as not hot. I don't mind reading a book that is inspirational every now and again, but it's not something I prioritize when I organize a TBR for myself. J for journalism. Journalism is super important. It always has been, but now it's more important than ever. So yes, of course it's hot. Journalists are people who seek out the truth and work very hard to provide it to the masses in an accessible and easy to understand way. I'm going to try to read more nonfiction that focuses on journalism in the future. K for kitsch. Something that has a popular or sentimental appeal. I would also say it's a type of book that has campy, corny, or cheesy aspects to it. I think for the most part I enjoy books that have this kind of vibe. I think an immediate example I can think of off the top of my head are translated contemporary Japanese novels. The perspectives are usually told in a quirky or off-kilter way that is also incredibly charming. The library is such an amazing place, and it can help you with so many different things besides from checking out just books or movies. You're also able to access a bunch of free services with just signing up and owning a library card too, which is super useful. I got my own library card recently and have since been using the Libby app for most of the books I've read in 2023. I'm looking forward to using Libby for most, if not all, of my reads for the present and future. I've decided to only buy physical books for myself, only if I give the book a high rating or as a reward for myself on special occasions. If you're thinking about whether or not you want to get a library card, there's no better time than the present. M for mystery. One of my favorite genres is mystery, so of course this is hot. I usually take a back seat and enjoy the mystery as is, although of course I make some loose predictions here and there when things start to get spicy in the plot. What else can I say? It's a genre almost everyone enjoys, and it's the one genre that can instantly work for someone who wants to pick up reading again and easily accessible as a recommendation or style-wise. N for nonfiction. The nonfiction I like to read most are books talking about specific historical events or biographies. I also like reading certain memoirs as well, usually from musicians or internet/online personalities. I definitely want to incorporate reading more nonfiction for my reading journey this year. O for omnibus. An omnibus is a compiled volume of several separate books. It's a hot for me, but I think the only thing I don't like about collected volumes is how inconvenient they are if you want to take them with you on the go. Even putting them in a bag is a hassle because they usually take up a lot of space. That would probably be the only downside I see with taking an omnibus around with you, but maybe you're someone who doesn't mind taking around a heavy bag with you, and you know what? Good on you for that. P for poetry. I don't actively seek poetry books to read, so personally this is not hot for me. If I do want to read poetry, I would probably go and pick up one of Ocean Vuong's old poetry collections to read. Good for people who do like reading poetry on a regular basis though. Q for quests. When the protagonist goes on a journey, whether physically or spiritually. I like this idea even more when it's not related in a fantasy way as well. A lot of characters' goals and stories have them wanting to achieve something, whether it's attaining something physically or through a more conceptual outcome. R for romance. I've started to really enjoy romance books recently, and they're a good palate cleanser to read between more darker works. It's nice to read something lighthearted and sweet every now and again. S for science fiction. One of my favorite genres and one of the main genres I would like to talk more about on this channel. I want to make an effort to read more sci-fi this coming year for 2024. I'm specifically hoping to get through sci-fi books that are already on my TBR that are set in space or have a futuristic and/or cyberpunk feel to it. T for translation. Books translated from one language into another. I really enjoyed translated works, so hot. I think I've read a couple books on Japanese literature, and I have a few translated Korean novels on my TBR. I think I also have a few sprinklings of translated European works, too. I definitely want to read more translated novels when 2024 comes around. U for Ubermensch. The Superman or the Extraordinary Human, characters who can do everything. I don't like stories about near-perfect characters, nor do I like stories about superhuman characters either. I like following characters who are heavily flawed, and stories where characters' flaws are a big part of the overarching story in a book. Even better if it's about a flawed character who does their best in overcoming something related to the self. This could probably relate back to the quest question, where during a quest, a character undergoes some sort of development by attempting to achieve something through internal means. V for Victorian. Gothic literature was born during this time period, so of course this will be hot in my books. There's so many great classics that were published during this time book-wise. I definitely want to make a purposeful effort to read more classics this upcoming year. Since I have a bunch I'm excited to dive into, but haven't found the time in 2023 for a variety of reasons. W for Western. I haven't had success with any Western books so far, but I'm not against checking out those kinds of books in the future. But because of the current success rate, I can't say I'm a big fan of the genre, and a lot of the stories share very similar plots story-wise. But again, I'm open to being surprised and finding something that will fit my taste in the future. But maybe not for a while for now. X for X-rated. I'm assuming we're talking about books of a more mature caliber here. I think the themes can both encompass a range from dark and disturbing to steamy and smutty. Either way, yes, hot. Y for Young Adult. Not hot. There are exceptions of course, but I think I've decided recently that I'm just not into YA books where I am in life. There is a lot of vapidness and hollowness in this category of books, and I just don't have the time anymore to sift through waves of it to get to the actual good stuff. I may read a YA book every now and again, but it's not something I will actively prioritize for my reading. Z for Zeitgeist. Spirit or mood of the times. Zeitgeist is something that I see that is current or trendy. It's something that would be known to the general populace. It is usually something featured in pop culture. Not hot to me personally, as I don't usually read things that are considered hot around what I would call general or normie readers. I like to aim my focus on more specific genres and less popular releases for books, although I am not against reading trendy books every so often. Horror again is one of them. I would still consider it one of the more niche book genres, as unfortunately it's not a genre that is something people can easily like or are able to get into. It's been a while since my last video, but thank you for your patience. If I may be frank, it's been a rough year for me personally. Things have started to look up thankfully, and I'm excited to move forward with the in real life good news and hopefully get back to a more regular uploading schedule for future videos. I also want to try streaming every so often, but we'll see how that goes. For those who have stayed, thank you. Words are not enough to let you all know that you still want to follow this channel despite the sudden video/stream dry spell that happened once summer ended. For any newcomers, welcome, and I hope you enjoy your stay here, no matter if it's for my videos or my streams. For immediate updates, please check out and follow my Twitter. I will also cross-post announcements and other important news on my community page here. Please let me know what you think of this video. If you want to follow me on other socials, I'll have them linked below in the description. I hope you all have a good rest of your day or night, wherever you may be in this big, big world. Until the next video, IDU Unit 01, Eureka Forsyth, signing off.